Why am I here? What is my life's purpose? Why should I care about anything if everything is just going to end? These were the kinds of questions that haunted one of the greatest writers of all time, Leo Tolstoy. Despite having achieved almost everything, fame, wealth, a loving family, and success, Tolstoy found himself struggling with these very thoughts. He was often considered the Cormac McCarthy of his time, as his two most famous novels, War and Peace and Anna Karenina, continue to be some of the most celebrated works in literature. On top of that, he owned a large farm, had a beautiful family, and was married to a loving wife. But despite all of this, something shifted for Tolstoy when he reached the age of 50. Suddenly, nihilistic thoughts hit him hard, and all of his previously found happiness seemed to vanish. A man who had once lived life to its fullest, doing whatever made him feel good, now found himself questioning everything. Why did this happen? How did he get through it? In this discussion, we'll explore Tolstoy's personal struggle and how he faced these deep existential questions to find an answer. From a young age, Leo Tolstoy was deeply skeptical of Christianity. He lost both of his parents early in life, which left him feeling abandoned and disillusioned. The church, in particular, gave him a negative impression. Tolstoy once said, "Religious doctrine, accepted on trust and supported by external pressure, gradually falls away under the influence of knowledge and experience of life, which conflicts with it." His early life, filled with tragedy and doubt, set the stage for his later struggles with faith. For almost 50 years, Tolstoy lived a life seemingly free of major worries. He was successful, rich, and surrounded by family. But then, something changed. He hit an intellectual crisis, a deep and overwhelming existential crisis where sleep became his only escape. The weight of his thoughts was so intense that he found solace in sleep because it provided temporary relief from the constant barrage of questions about his purpose and existence. In his essay A Confession, Tolstoy expressed how, during this time, he had to trick himself into not taking his own life, as nihilism consumed him. As his thoughts spiraled, he became like an emotional toddler, constantly asking himself, why? Why life? Why existence? Why death? He believed there was something fundamentally wrong with his soul. In Anna Karenina, the character Levin mirrors this struggle. Levin, much like Tolstoy, was caught in an endless loop of why questions, fixated on the meaning of life and death. Tolstoy wrote, "If not now, then tomorrow. If not tomorrow, then in 30 years. Does it make any difference?" Capturing the hopelessness that defined his thinking at that time. These thoughts led Tolstoy to contemplate suicide, but instead of ending his life, he decided to embark on a different journey. A journey in search of meaning, a search for ultimate peace. He turned to philosophy, science, and various ideologies to find answers. One of the turning points in his journey was a parable he reflected on deeply, a tale he included in a confession. The parable was about a man fleeing from a wild beast who eventually stumbled upon an abandoned well. Desperate to escape the beast, the man jumped into the well, only to find a dragon waiting at the bottom with its jaws wide open. In his panic, he grabbed onto a branch growing out of the well's wall, hoping to avoid falling into the dragon's grasp. Amid this situation, the man noticed drops of honey on the leaves of the branch he was holding. Despite the danger, he reached out and tasted the honey, momentarily distracted from the life-threatening predicament he was in. Tolstoy saw this parable as a mirror of his own life. He recognized that, like the man in the well, he was caught between two extremes, the wild beast of existential dread above him and the dragon of death waiting below. Yet in the midst of this turmoil, he found moments of sweetness, moments that kept him alive and searching. Rather than give in to the dragon's jaws, Tolstoy chose to seek meaning, exploring almost every ideology. First, he turned to philosophy and science. Tolstoy read the works of multiple philosophers, including Solomon, Socrates, and Buddha, but he did not find complete answers in any of them. He felt that these teachings ultimately led to one simple conclusion. Happy is he who has not been born. Death is better than life, and one must free oneself from life. On the other hand, Tolstoy also explored science, which he believed offered knowledge but found little solace there. He viewed Darwinism as embodying nihilism, suggesting that humans are nothing but an accidental creation in the universe. According to biology, we are merely lumps of energy, valuable only when we are healthy and destined for death once our cells grow old. To Tolstoy, science offered no comfort regarding life's purpose or how one could live a happy life free from the existential thoughts that haunted him. Disillusioned with both philosophy and science, Tolstoy turned to studying and observing the people around him. After much reflection, he concluded that, for people in his circle, there were 4 ways out of the terrible position in which we are all placed. The first way is accepting the absurdity of life. Tolstoy found a lot of commonality between Albert Camus' philosophy and his own perspective on existence, especially in their shared view of absurdism. Camus argued that instead of succumbing to despair or nihilism, we should adopt an attitude of defiance and resilience. The key is to keep a mindset of "so what?" However, Tolstoy didn't think this could be a lasting solution. How can you stay ignorant when you have a fully functioning mind constantly pushing you to think about your existence? The second group Tolstoy observed were those who turned to a life of indulgence, filling it with pleasures to distract themselves from the suffering and uncertainty of existence. However, Tolstoy criticized this approach for being ultimately unsatisfying. The third group consisted of those who saw no way out and contemplated ending their lives. But Tolstoy himself could not embrace this path. The fourth group were those caught in existential limbo. They recognized the meaninglessness of life but lacked the strength to move in any direction. Tolstoy saw this as the weakest form of living, as it offered no resolution or progress. After studying various theologies and observing people, Tolstoy experienced a profound revelation. His observations of the poor marked a significant turning point. Despite facing immense hardships, the peasants maintained an unwavering faith in God, which seemed to give them purpose and resilience. Tolstoy, caught in his own existential struggles, found himself disconnected from such faith. However, he began to see that life could not be fully understood through reason alone. It required belief in something greater. Faith, particularly in the infinite, became the key to transcending the limitations of the finite world. Even if his rational mind saw faith as a leap without tangible evidence, Tolstoy came to understand it as the only path to true peace and purpose. Embracing this belief, he found contentment and dedicated himself to a simpler way of living, focusing on the well-being of others. His later works, including The Kingdom of God is Within You, reflected this new understanding, influencing figures such as Gandhi and Martin Luther King Jr. In the end, Tolstoy's life, once dominated by intellectual struggles, found its meaning in the very faith he had once rejected. Though his version of faith was not entirely Orthodox Christianity, it was deeply rooted in his belief in the infinite and his understanding of God. This gave him the satisfaction he had long been seeking. He spent his remaining years living honestly and devotedly, finding the peace he had been searching for. At last, he passed away on November 20th, 1910, at the age of 82.